Hello and welcome back to the Opposites Abroad podcast, the podcast about all things travel. Charlie Bosco here up in an increasingly chilly BC and down in SLC, Salt Lake City. We've got TT. God, it's all the abbreviations today. We've got CB in BC, TT in SLC. Yeah, but TT is down in Salt Lake. You been won over to Mormonism yet?
I'm pretty close.
Yeah. Just the final stages of conversion. Are you wearing that weird paper underwear stuff?
The magic underwear? No, but I actually was wondering, it'd be fun to go to a store and look at it.
I feel like being the magic underwear. Yeah, I mean, it seems to work. They got a lot of kids.
They do, yes. And I've never really found out what's so magic about it.
I gotta feel like not having kids in the Mormon world would be quite an elephant in the room. You know, you meet a lot of people in normal life who've not got kids, and you think, yeah, okay, maybe. But given that Mormons are basically there to seemingly produce as many people as possible, I feel like it would definitely be an elephant in the room if you were a couple in your 50s with no kids in Utah.
Well, and speaking of elephants, I went to the zoo yesterday, which actually didn't have elephants, weirdly enough, but. Man, you've never seen so many little blonde kids in your life.
Really? Are Mormons generally blonde? Is that a thing?
Yeah. It's a very, very Caucasian religion, and very generally fair-haired.
Wow. Didn't know that. So you, being 6 foot with black hair and covered in tats, I'm going to say you stood out somewhat at the Salt Lake City zoo.
They're not allowed to have tattoos either.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
Not allowed, or it's just really frowned? Like, as in Japan, tattoos are really frowned upon, hey?
No, it's not allowed in part of their religion, just like Judaism.
Okay.
Or,
Okay, I didn't know that. There's quite a lot of things forbidden in Mormonism, hey? Like fun and...
alcohol.
Happiness. You know?
Caffeine is like a weird thing. They're not supposed to have caffeine, but there's certain aspects they're allowed to have. It's like... Yeah, it's a kind of a weird deal.
Okay, well, we're not here to talk about Mormonism, fascinating as it is. We wanted to talk all things America and how America is perceived from the outside, because we actually met up last weekend. I was down in Denver, and it was so cool to hang out. And we did think about doing a podcast while we're in person, but with only one mic, it would have been like the Backstreet Boys. Both singing, all singing into the same microphone. And
we were pretty worn out.
We were just doing stuff as well. That's the other thing. We didn't necessarily want to go and do a podcast while we had the opportunity to hang out and have fun. But it was amazing. I had such an amazing weekend. I've been thinking so much about what it was like going to the Broncos game. So TT took me to the Denver Broncos, and it was just Americana on steroids, and we had the best seats in the house, and the Broncos won by a country mile, and it was an amazing experience.
So tell me what from as a Brit, what did you like about the Bronco game?
The just the kind of razzmatazz of American sport is when you go to a sporting event in England, it's generally raining, but even if it's not, you just walk up to the stadium and go in and watch the game, and then the game finishes and you leave. And it just, in America, everyone is there hours beforehand, tailgating, there are shows, there are attractions. It's just sort of constant entertainment. How long did we get there before the game? 3 hours? I mean, it was a long time before the game.
Yeah, because we went to a party before, like a private party.
And the stadium's just jumping. Or outside the stadium is jumping. And God, if you went to Manchester United 3 hours early, there'd just be the security guard and the gates would be locked. There's just nothing going on. So I think that, and then everything about the experience of being in the stadium, the anthem. In European sport, they would never sing the national anthem. That would be considered really weird. But it's such a big deal in America, and the fact that you have.
So what do they do for the British? Do they do anything when a game starts?
Well, I mean, if England are playing, if it's England against France, someone, they play the anthems. But they would, if it was Manchester United, Liverpool, there's no anthem. There's no.
Really?
No, there's nothing like that. It would be weird Half the people would boo it. I don't know. It just seems like it's just a uniquely American thing. Well, North America, they do it in Canada as well, but
Yeah.
it's an American thing. And then members of the military on the turf, and then the lady riding a horse sprinting down the middle of the turf. I don't know. It's so completely over the top, but brilliant at the same time. So.
Well, you don't get the horse in a lot of other stadiums, but since it's the Broncos and a Bronco's a horse, that's, they do that.
Yeah, but I've been to a Seattle game, and they always get a famous Seattle celebrity. I feel like they must be running out pretty soon. There can't be that many famous people from Seattle, but they get someone famous from Seattle to raise the 12 flag high above the stadium. There's this big flag for 12. They call the Seattle fans the 12th man. And everybody looks up, and they introduce this famous celebrity, and they raise the flag of the 12 and then pump the crowd up. It's just completely over the top, but I love it.
What famous celebrities have you seen at this Seattle game?
There was you got it. When I say celebrities, we're not talking your A-listers. George Clooney's not up there raising the 12 flag. It's some guy from The Office, might have been Dwight from The Office. When I was there, that's the kind of celebrity level we're talking about.
Yeah, I like Dwight. He's cool.
Yeah, you grew up in Seattle. Maybe you got a call one time.
I did not. I was born in Seattle, but I grew up in Denver.
Wow, you're a Seattleite deep down. You never know. You might get the call if the podcast does well enough. You'd have
to raise the 12th flag.
You'd have to say no.
I would do it if it wasn't against the Broncos.
But yeah, it's just the whole experience is just so completely over the top and so overwhelming and so long, and the entertainment is constant. There's no lull. It's just you're just constantly being entertained before, during, and after the game. So it's we were destroyed. Hey, we came home and I think we went to bed.
Oh yeah.
You fell asleep on the couch about 7.
I was wiped out.
But it's just a massive day, isn't it?
It's a massive day, and it's a lot of beer, and it was a lot. But it was super fun. And then we went to Hot Wings the night before, which is a very American thing.
Yeah. And I'd been to a diner actually during the week. What's it called? The one I think it's near Colfax with the huge sign of the cowboy. Okay, I should really have looked that up before coming on.
Yeah, Denver Diner or something. I don't know.
I can't remember, but it just the whole trip. I was down working and then meeting up with you for a week, and it just got me thinking about what America is like as an outsider. How do I suppose, especially in such a divided America as it is now, it's very hard to say how do Americans feel about X. It seems like Americans can't even agree if the world is flat or round right now, but in general, how do you think Americans feel their country is perceived by outsiders?
That's a really good question. I would say the more progressive Americans probably understand and have some trepidation, kind of knowing that the outside world looks at us kind of as a joke a little bit compared to how we were used to be viewed. I think the really conservative Americans kind of just think the rest of the world's terrible and it's a mess, and they don't understand kind of the nuances of the world. So I don't know that they lose much sleep over it, but they should. It's because I am, even with America's problems right now and America's leadership, America is still founded on amazing principles that no other country basically has ever been founded on. We're the only country ever that went to war with itself to end slavery. We're built on individual freedom and rights. There's some really amazing things about America, and I think it kind of gets lost with all the noise and the browbeating other countries and telling Europe that they're hellholes, or whatever the terms that are used by some of our elected officials. It's just really sad, and it bothers me. It really bothers me because I want people to be proud. I want to be proud to be American, and I want people to know that America is a great country. And I think people still will always respect America for our pop culture, our movies, our music, our fashion. America's always going to be considered pretty cool, but some of the bigger things outside of that are not really respected right now, I don't think. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think objectively America's probably... It would be hard to argue against America being the greatest country in the history of the world. To go from basically being founded to by far the strongest economy, military power, economic military power of all time in 200 years, basically. It's just staggering. I think it's the only country that's ever been founded on an ideal rather than a territorial claim. I think it's probably the most interesting country in some ways in the history of the world. I find it's just a land of contradictions, but it's so inspiring. It's so vast, it's so varied. So I have a very positive view of America. I've always been a fan of the American ideal. I know it's lost its way a lot, and I think America is doing permanent harm to its standing in the world with the way its leader is behaving right now. But I do think it will come back, and I do think America will dominate the next century as it dominated the last. So
yeah, and what I wished is, it was kind of twofold. I wish that progressive Americans could admit that America is a great country founded on great ideals and have appreciation of America. And I wish that the more conservatives would understand that the world is complicated and we actually do need to take the high road sometimes when it comes to other countries and how we treat people. And I wish there was some kind of middle ground, because it bothers me when I hear, a conservative, that doesn't care about Europe, or they think, every place is a hellhole, or whatever kind of stuff, that's rhetoric that's coming out of their mouth. I feel just as kind of ashamed when I hear a more progressive American saying how they're ashamed to be American, or they don't agree with the founding of America and some of the things that happened in America, because every country has that stuff, and I think America did better than a lot of places did. So it's just, I think we just need some balance. It's really unfortunate. We kind of get it from both sides.
Yeah, but I think that's reflective of political debate in America right now, which is most people are somewhere in the middle and don't feel that their voice is represented in what they hear.
Well, and it's like, I know there's some people that for 4th of July, they don't want to put up American flags because they're so unhappy with how the country's going right now. But I think that's ridiculous. You're not celebrating how the country is right now. You're celebrating the history of the country, and you can still be patriotic and disagree with kind of what's happening. I think that's true patriotism. I certainly wouldn't be ashamed to have an American flag. I think it's ridiculous.
I totally agree. The most patriotic thing you can do is try and make the country better. I think you touched on something there, though. I think one of the things I sometimes feel talking to less progressive Americans is that they don't feel there's anything they can learn for the rest of the world.
Yes.
It's just kind of an attitude that, look, we got the biggest economy, we got the best military, we basically dominate the international stage. We're the only superpower left, really. Maybe China, not Russia anymore, but clearly the dominant superpower in the world. And in a slightly French way, they don't think they can learn much from other people.
Yeah, and I think there's some just stuff that they don't understand the big picture, and I think that's why when you travel, you see things. And I travel and I say, wow, this is nicer in America in some ways, or this is worse in America in some ways, and you have kind of appreciations of different things. I like when American food is great. Americans tend to be fairly helpful and nice and somewhat. But then you go to some place like Japan and people obey the rules and nobody's annoying each other and it's not obnoxious. And I think the individuality in America can go too far sometimes. And it's like the whole point of individuality is that you're an individual that doesn't annoy and bother other people. That doesn't mean that you're an individual so you listen to a YouTube video full blast on your phone without headphones in public at a restaurant, or you blast your car stereo, or you tailgate people because they're not going fast enough, or whatever it is, jerk things that you do, that's not individuality. And I think Americans kind of forgets that. They've kind of replaced individuality with selfishness. And
That's a very
and I
good
think
point.
and I think they could see from other countries some that we are a community, and we should take care of each other, be nice to each other. And I don't feel like we always have that in the United States anymore. I don't know if we ever did, but I really see it now.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I find Americans generally very friendly, but I sometimes feel that it's slightly surface level.
Yeah.
They'll be polite and they're nice, but would they actually come to my aid if I needed it, or would they actually pay more taxes so that people less fortunate than themselves had healthcare?
Yeah. Well, I
Maybe
think there's
not.
a lie that a lot of Americans believe, and one of the lies is that, like, healthcare systems in the rest of the world are terrible, and you're going to wait. If you're in Canada, you're going to wait 10 years to get a surgery, and you're going to die and stuff. And they don't look into things enough, and they just hear stuff from, like, the right wing media, and they just believe it, and it's not that way in the real
No,
world.
I think the other thing that I really notice is that the concept of freedom is a huge deal in America, and it's not really a concept anywhere else. You never hear someone in France or Germany talking about their freedoms.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure if it's. I certainly don't go to America and feel that I can behave in a way that I can't elsewhere in the world because I have more freedom.
Yes.
I would
Yeah,
say actually
yeah.
quite the opposite. I feel like it would be easier to get in trouble with the law in America than in a lot of Europe. And yet, because of in some ways, quite minor differences, like the right to bear arms, which I know causes huge problems, but it's day to day, it's not affecting many people's lives. But because of things like that, I get the impression that some Americans feel themselves to be freer, and they feel other people to be in some way repressed.
Yeah, I think America's so big that you can really insulate yourself and not know anything about the rest of the world. I was talking to someone not very long ago, and I was talking about Armenia, and he's American, and educated, and successful, and he goes, "I would never go to Armenia. Armenia is I'm not used to language, but like a crap hole, basically." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Oh, that place is horrible. It's crime ridden. It's like a third world country." And I'm looking at him like, I don't even think you've left the United States. Like, how would you even know that? And I said, "So you wouldn't ever go?" And he's like, "Nope, I would never go there in a million years." And I said, I think most of the world just sees us for our mass shootings.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's probably more likely you're going to get killed in a mass shooting in America than get murdered in Armenia. Like, I just think it's so strange, but it's like they've created this narrative that America is the only place in the world that's great. Every place else is horrible, and other place is unsafe. And I really can't wrap my mind around it. But you and I are more adventurous and more like explorers, where we want to go see for ourselves. And there's places I've been that I would, like Haiti or North Korea, I don't want to live in, but I went there to see.
Yeah.
A lot of Americans have such crazy opinions one way or another on Israel and Palestine, but most of them have never even been there. And it's like, how you're just reading whatever side of the news that you believe and then regurgitating it. Like, you don't know. You have no clue. You've never been there. You've never talked to anybody that's there. You have no idea what you're talking about. And I don't know if maybe the French are that way, but I just don't understand people that have these such crazy opinions on places and things they've never experienced.
Yeah, and we've said before, I always think the true definition of intelligence is realizing how little you know. And it's sometimes talking to Americans, there is a kind of that unquestioning superiority.
Yeah.
Armenia's a dump. Well, how do you know? I mean, I had a friend staying with me recently. He's from St. Petersburg. All we hear about Russia is how awful it is. The war, Putin, it's a dictatorship, it's this, it's that. And he said to me, basically, apart from Putin and the fact that you live in a dictatorship, Russia's a really good place to live. They have exceptional schools. If you need an MRI for a healthcare system, it's free. You'll get it the same day you get injured. The healthcare system is exceptional. Education's exceptional. There is no crime. There's no homelessness. He said, I've never seen a homeless person in St. Petersburg. I've never seen any crime in St. Petersburg. I could leave my laptop case on the front seat of my car and no one's going to take it.
Yeah.
And that's not saying I want to move to Russia or that Russia's better than America. God, I live in pretty much anywhere in America over anywhere in Russia, but Russia is not terrible. It's not this awful place. It should be feared. There's probably a lot they can learn. Maybe if the Russians sent a delegation over and talked to America about how to improve its healthcare, America might learn something from that. And I think that gets lost sometimes in America.
Well, it's like a total side thing. The Denver airport is terrible. It's so horribly designed. And I could walk you through it and explain why it's so badly designed. The trains are too small. You get off the trains and the escalators are at a side angle, so the crowd like bunches up trying to get to them. And it's like when they built that airport, because it's not a super old airport, why didn't they just go to Asia and see how airports are done and then come back and build one?
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't have been that hard. Now it'd be China has these huge airports, but you go to Singapore, you go to whatever airport at the time was cutting edge, you go to Tokyo, and you go and you see, and then you come back and you just kind of redesign it. But they don't do. But Americans don't think that way. They think they know everything. They think they're smarter than everybody, and then they spend all this time and money building something that doesn't really work right.
Yeah.
Because it's so America centric, and there's stuff that other countries do better than us, and there's stuff that we probably do better than those other countries, and that mesh or that melting pot of using an old term is what would really make things better. I'm not going to say make it great again, but it'll make things better. But we cannot do that. Like why why don't we have public transportation better? It's sad. It's sad that we don't give our citizens the best version of the country that we possibly could give them.
I totally agree with that. It was quite interesting thinking about that. I talked to a guy who's got involved with Major League Soccer about 10, 15 years ago. I think it was post David Beckham coming, so they were kind of riding the wave of Beckham having come to America. And he said that they were founding MLS teams, and they said, okay, we've studied European soccer, and we've realized that the rivalry is a big part of what engages fans. And this guy who I know goes, yeah, absolutely, the rivalry is huge. And they go, so what we're going to do is we're going to create these new franchises, and then we're going to designate one game a season. So every time Real Salt Lake play Colorado Rapids, we're going to call that the rivalry game. This guy I know goes, no, rivalries didn't come about because someone sat down with a spreadsheet and decided who was going to hate each other.
Yeah.
Two teams have got some history that goes back all these decades, and they hate each other because of something that happened in 1980 or 2001. Like you can't just say these are the two rivals and you get extra points when you beat this other team. It's ridiculous. But they just were not prepared to invest the time to create genuine fan attachment. They'll throw a ton of marketing at it, and they'll designate rivalry games, and they'll try and stir up a rivalry between two teams. And if it doesn't work after 15 years, they just move the franchise. And the reason that the Premier League and English soccer has done so well is because they've just let it be forever and let the teams have a history and have rivalries. So,
would they ever move a team in England?
You can't. They're not franchises. There have been teams that shut down or went bankrupt and were kind of reformed in a completely different state, but kind of with some of the same people. But you can't move Manchester United and say we're moving them to London, they're going to be London United. It's just not I don't know about legally or how the structures work, but it just couldn't happen. Real Madrid aren't going to move to Berlin and become Real Berlin. It just can't happen. Yeah.
Well, and one of the things of America too is I think it's because America, I think a lot of things, and you've kind of alluded to it, is kind of a double-edged sword. Like there's good and bad that comes out of everything with America. One of the good things is you can be successful and high class in America and come from nothing.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't have to have an old name. You don't have to come from royalty. You don't have to have a super upbringing, some crazy upbringing with a ton of money and riding ponies every day and all that stuff. You can be poor, come up with a great idea, and you can be as famous or as successful and accepted into society as anybody else. And that's really cool with America. And something that you don't see in a lot of places. There's not like old money names and stuff in America like there really is in the rest of the world. I mean, there's some, but really not much. The bad with that is I think a lot of America is based on greed. And it's like, how much can I get? That's never enough. You get some of these American corporations or these American billionaires, and it's like they just want more and more and more and more, and they don't give back to society, and they don't have charities. And I mean, you look at even in the White House, that family is never given to charity. There's no libraries, there's no museums, there's no orphanage, there's nothing. It's just how much money can they get, and it's never ever enough. And maybe the oligarchs are that way in Russia, but I wish it was a little bit more community based. Like, now I've got money, and now I'm going to help my college, or I'm going to help my hometown, or I'm going to help poor kids, because I didn't have a lot when I grew up, and you just don't really see that much. And then when you do see somebody like Shaq, who's like super generous with his money, it's always kind of shocking because there's so few of the people are like that.
yeah. I think one thing you notice as well is that people are admired for being wealthy in America in a way that they're generally not elsewhere. So it's this big thing in America. How many billionaires have we got? Kind of the ultimate status symbol you can have is to be a billionaire.
Yeah,
and people look up to them, and they're almost kind of the heroes of society. These people that made $1 billion, and I just, in a world where so many people have so little, the idea of one human having $1,000 million is insane.
Yes.
It's literally insane that we can have billionaires. I can't. I'm not a communist by any means, but nobody needs $1 billion. It's an insane thing. And yet in America, I feel that it's kind of admired. Mark Cuban, billionaire, and it's this big badge of pride. I just think, well, Mark Cuban, you idiot. Why do you need $4 billion?
Yeah.
You seem like a great guy. Why don't you just keep 200 million and live like a king, and then make the world a better place?
Yep, but they won't do it. And my son actually said at one time, randomly, we were having a talk, and he goes, you can be a millionaire and be a good person, but you can't be a billionaire and be a good person.
That's a very astute observation from your son.
And I thought from a kid, wow, that is amazing, because you cannot be a billionaire without mistreating employees, not paying them enough, fleecing. Somehow you're doing something. Like, it's just, and I know there's some billionaires like Taylor Swift and stuff, but she doesn't need $1 billion either.
But even if you're the most ethical businessman ever, even if you pay everyone in your factory twice what their value is, blah, 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 anyone that hoards $1,000 million for themselves, I just can't deal with. And I always feel if we're sticking on the train of what America is like as an outsider, they're really looked up to, and people aspire to be a billionaire. And I think that's quite unique. I don't think you meet many people in the UK or France or Germany who say, I want to be a billionaire. I know there's this billionaire who I want to be just like. I don't think that's something you hear elsewhere.
Well, it's interesting too, because when I was in college for a little bit, when I was in England, and I put my hand through a window at a bar and I had to go to the hospital. And when I was there, the school took me, and the doctor was like a young woman, and she was super nice and helpful. And I was chatting with her a little bit, and she was basically saying that the difference between doctors in England and the United States is in England they're extremely well respected because they are known for going into medicine to help people. Or in the United States, doctors are generally not respected because people know that they went into it to make money.
Right. Yeah.
And I remembered that. I mean, I was 20 years old when that young doctor told me that, and I've remembered that ever since. And it's true, because I'm not saying all doctors are that way, because there are doctors in America that went into it for the right reasons, but a lot of them went into it because they know they can make a lot of money, or they want to do both. Like, well, I'll do something good for society and I'll make a lot of money. And you don't really see that in other places with more socialized medicine, where they don't make, these crazy amounts of money, but they still have to do the education, and so I always found that super fascinating. Because which would you rather be, in a way, super well respected or make a lot of money? And I think most Americans would probably say they'd rather make a lot of more money, but I think a lot of people from other countries would say they'd rather be respected.
I think that's probably true, yeah. Well, I mean, one thing you notice thinking about money with Americans, though, is I generally get the impression that Americans feel that wherever they are on the economic spectrum, they kind of deserve to be there. It's as if they look up to billionaires and go, well, that guy, that lady, they started that business and they made their billion, and good luck to them. And the reason I'm down here is because I didn't. It's as if everybody, I don't often speak to Americans who give the sense that they think there's a big injustice. It's as if they feel the system's fair and you find your place in it.
Yeah.
And you deserve to be where you are.
When I think there is optimism in America, there's optimism for Americans that one day they might be that billionaire.
Yeah.
So they want to. So who are they to judge? Because it could be them. Like, they could come up with some crazy idea and start some company, and next thing you know, they're worth $1 billion. So it's almost like, who are they to judge someone's success? Yeah. I don't really have a further point than that.
No, I get it. And there is a massive feeling of possibility in America. I find more than anywhere else I've been, even more than Canada. Most people believe that they can do anything in America. I haven't met many people who are just sort of resigned or throw their hands up and say, God, I give up, this is rigged against me. It's as if everyone believes that they could make it. And that's really nice to be around.
It is, and that's that's one of those great things about America. We're taught as kids, like, you can be anything you want. You want to be president, you want to be whatever, you want to be a billionaire, whatever you want to do. And basically all kids are taught that and told that in America. Versus, let's say you grew up in India. It's like, no, your caste is that you pick up dog crap all day. Yeah. And you can never get out of that caste.
And you can't.
No,
genuinely can't.
Or you're in Europe and it's like, well, you'll never fit in with these people because you don't have a royal name, or you don't come from come from a family with manor houses and stuff, and you're just nouveau riche that's never going to fit in. Or people in Europe that, where someone comes from a family with a lot of money, but they don't have an old name, so then they marry into a family with a name so that they can kind of increase that and well round themselves in that circle. You don't have that stuff happen in America.
No, and in Europe, I often think people kind of accept their place. Certainly, we used to live in Austria, and I always said, as long as you're happy to live in your apartment, block, life is great. You will get free healthcare, you'll get free university, but you have to accept being a cog in the wheel. And it's a very nice wheel in which to be a cog, and you'll have a great life, but you kind of have to accept that's my place. And as soon as you stick your head up, you're going to get taxed to death. You're going to run into people having the attitude or being negative towards you. People will say, "No, that'll never work," or "No, come on, don't quit your job. You got a great deal there. Don't quit your job and start a business." Whereas I feel like in America, people would say, "Yeah, quit your job. You can be anything. You can do that."
Yeah,
and I love that. It does feel like the land of possibility, even now, even losing its way as it seems to be right now, and it really gives me hope. And I have to say, I really enjoy spending time in America. And if you could get healthcare sorted, I'd be tempted to move there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple big glaring issues. Even if you take the presidency and stuff out of it right now,
well,
there's some big
3 years from now. It's the first week in November. 3 years from now, there's going to be another presidential election.
Yeah,
it can't be anyone as insane. Well, touch wood, but yeah,
but I think you're right. I think the healthcare is a big issue. Our gun culture is a big issue. Um, and then there's some big problems on the left too that they need to sort out for themselves, and hopefully we can get America back on track and get back to the shining, beacon on the hill that everybody else looks up to because of our freedoms and our history. But yeah, I do feel like we've lost our way a little bit, and I hope it's a hiccup, and we learn from our lessons and get back on track, and it's not the fall of the Roman Empire.
I don't think it will be, but I think it could be if it goes wrong. But America needs to find its way back towards a political center.
Yeah. Yes.
The woke ideology is as insane as MAGA ideology. And somewhere in the middle is where most people live and where most good decisions are made and where human progress is made incrementally, bit by bit, not by insane lurches in social and economic policy. So if they can refine the centre, we'll be just fine. You'll be just fine.
I think so too, and I think anybody would like at this point to have, George Bush, who was a fairly moderate Republican, or Bill Clinton, who's a fairly moderate Democrat, someone of that nature, than a MAGA nut job or a woke nut job on the other side that have kind of taken over their parties, and I think the parties need to take themselves back from the fringe groups.
Can I just throw out a reason why this has happened?
Of course.
Social media. Because the way you succeed in social media
is by shocking.
Yeah, it's by clicks.
Yeah.
No one ever gets a click from saying, "Hey, decisions are hard to make. Let's just find some consensus and make some sensible decisions." You get much more attention if you say something outrageous, and I think that's a huge problem because anyone saying something sensible is being ignored because they don't get the attention.
Yeah, because are you going to click an article that says, Israeli is committing genocide, or Palestine, wants to kill blah, blah, blah? Or are you going to click on something that says, the Middle East is really complicated and there's a lot of nuance that goes into what's happened between Israel and Palestine, and it's a super long article? No, nobody cares, and nobody's going to read that. I've learned that even living in Colorado, and I deal with it with my mom, who's elderly, that the media is never like, oh yeah, we might get a little snowstorm, but it really won't be that bad, and don't worry about it. It's always like, oh my God, it has a potential, it's going to shut everything down. The airports all flights are going to get canceled. And it just goes like, they go so crazy, and then it ends up being nothing or very little. And my mom is like freaked out about it for the whole week, and then she's like, wow, that really didn't end up being that bad. I can't believe I hoarded food and all this stuff, and I'm like, Mom, it's never that bad.
No.
But it's the same thing. Like, nobody's going to click on an article, little tiny snowstorm expected to hit Colorado, no big deal.
Yeah.
Like, they're not. No one's going to click on it. So they just exaggerate everything, and I do think that it's kind of de-evolution. And I think, unfortunately, the internet and social media has made us all dumber, unless you can really, really get out of your comfort zone and look at stuff. I tend to read BBC News for my world news because I feel like it's more reasonable and it's not one side or the other because it's not an American website. But I don't know hardly anyone that does that. Like the right does Fox News, the left watches CNBC or whatever it's called, or CNN, and there's it just gets completely lost, because I always thought with the internet or social media, people would search out information they don't know. But that's not what they're doing. They search out things that tell them that the earth is flat, or the vaccines are bad, or that science is bad, and then they just believe whatever they're reading because that's all they'll see. And it's so frustrating, and I really worry about society going forward with that. People need to seek out opinions that aren't their own.
Yes, but I wonder if people will just tire of extremism. I mean, it feels like having Trump as president is exhausting.
Oh, it is. It's horrible. It's so exhausting.
Some people would I would probably find it equally exhausting if AOC was president, because she'd be doing something completely insane at the other end of the political spectrum. So I wonder if people will just end up getting his. I mean, when Biden got elected, it was as if people just wanted they just wanted a president they didn't think about.
Yeah,
and then
just a breath of fresh air.
In the end, he kind of lost his mind. And you had to think about him because he clearly couldn't do the job anymore. But the theory, to me, or the learning from that is people just want to forget about it for a while. They don't want to be shocked.
Yeah.
They don't want to be scared. They just want to live their lives and let someone else worry about the politics. But I got to say, even the BBC is getting pretty bad now. They say things like, Britain is bracing for the biggest rainfall of the year. You think, well, some rainfall's got to be the biggest of the year. It's not like it's the biggest. If it's the biggest in 100 years, or the biggest in 10 years, then that's...
Yeah.
I saw one on the BBC. It's been the hottest day of the year. Well, every year is going to have a hottest day. It's not...
Yeah.
It's not newsworthy that it's. I don't know. It feels like it's slightly dramatizing.
And it's interesting because you come from the media, and I think, and I hate to admit it, but Trump's generally right about what he says about the media. Now, what he doesn't say is the whole picture that it's both sides of the media doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But the fact that, when he says, the media comes from an angle and they already have their opinion made before they even interview people, or they, that stuff. I mean, he's right with all that stuff, but both sides do it.
Yeah, no, 100%. It always hurts to say Trump's right, but he's not. He's right about a few things, and that is one of them.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think America is the greatest country that's ever existed, and it's got its faults, but I love it. I love being able to visit regularly. And I certainly, in another world, if life had turned out differently, could certainly have seen myself living there. But it remains not quite the right place for me to live, but it remains, for sure, the most interesting place, day in, day out, to watch.
Well, I am glad you like it. I love America. I think America's got so many great things. And it hurts me. I was talking to somebody not that long ago who's from outside the U.S. who basically said, I will never come visit America. America has nothing of interest to me. And it's like, so we get it from all sides. But America's, if you've never been to America and you're listening to this and you're international, even I know the visa's a pain and stuff now, but if you can get to America, come to America and see it. It's like a million little countries. Everything's so different depending on where you go in the U.S. It's really got a lot of history. Not a lot of old history, but it's got a lot of interesting history.
I'm struggling to think of anyone I know in Europe who's been to the U.S. and said they hated it. They might go and say, I hated X place.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever met anyone who went, I went to America. God, it was awful.
Have you met people who are just like, I never want to go to America?
Yeah. There's loads of people that say that in the UK. I mean, a very good friend of mine came to visit in Canada, and he'd never been to the US, and his dad had never been to the US, but his dad hated the US. I mean, how can you hate somewhere you've never been?
Yeah, just like we were saying.
It's ridiculous. But
and what do you hate the US for?
This is the other thing. People in Europe, I've heard someone say to me, well, the thing about America is that it's so loud, it's so busy, it's so brash. And I was thinking, well, have you been to Wyoming? Have you been to have you been to basically anywhere that isn't the middle of a city in America? Because it is massive and there's not much going on out there. It's one of the quietest places I've ever been. I mean, I've experienced some of the wildest places I've ever been in the lower 48. So there's a perception amongst a lot of Europeans that all Americans are loud, the country's bright and brash, everyone's just stuffing their face with McDonald's and shouting, and it's loud and there are guns, and it's like all stereotypes. There's maybe an element of truth somewhere deep down, but the reality bears no resemblance to it. So, anyway, but just quickly, this friend of mine came to Canada, had never been to the US. His dad hated the US, having never been there and really not knowing anything about it. And I said to him, look, while you're here, you should totally go down for 2 weeks. Just drive. And he ended up driving down to Seattle. We went to a Seahawks game, and he drove around the Cascades and the Washington coast, and he went down to Crater Lake in Oregon and Bend, and he was just blown away. Just thought it was the greatest thing he'd ever seen, and people were wonderful, scenery was amazing. just loved it. And I actually saw a thing on social media. I thought it was so true. Someone said, if you want to hate America, read about it. If you want to love America, drive through it. And I think that's so true.
Yeah. But that kind of goes for everything, and that's something we encourage people to do on here is go out and see stuff for yourself. And not everybody can, and everybody has the means. I mean, I get that, but if you're able to, go see stuff. Like, I can't imagine going your entire life and never going into the United States ever.
No.
Like, if you have the means to do it, like you can afford to do it, why in the world wouldn't you? Like that's like an American never going to Europe their entire life. I mean, that's just as sad.
I think I also struggling to think of anyone I've ever met who said, I went to America, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. People always come back and go, I never realized about this. I never realized how people eat, or where people live, or what the houses are like, or how much wilderness there is. Or it's just a place where you're constantly finding new things to interest you. And I think anyone born in America, anyone who lives in America, has won life's lottery. Still today. So when we were at the game and people took their hat off and for the anthem, I felt proud just to have experienced that country. So we're living in an amazing time in human history, and really the US embodies that. So it's got its faults, but you landed on your feet being born there, that's for sure.
Yes, that's true.
All right, we better scoot because I know you're busy in SLC.
Yes.
Going buying that Mormon underwear or whatever it is you're doing down there for the week. But oh, by the way, have you ever been for a swim in the Great Salt Lake?
I have not.
It's amazing. I thoroughly recommend. It's probably cold as balls right now. It's November.
I'm sure it is.
But I went for a swim in the Great Salt Lake and it was incredible because it's got 7 times the salt of the sea.
Wow, that's a lot.
So you just float. You basically can't swim. So when you roll onto your front to do breaststroke or front crawl, your legs come out and they're just kicking in the air because it's the weirdest thing. So you more or less can't swim because you can't get your limbs to stay in the water.
Wow.
Yeah, and you can just sit there like you're in a deck chair, just sitting there. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. But
I would like that.
Anyway, I made the mistake of putting my head under, and for about 24 hours afterwards, it just felt like my mouth was made of salt. But
I bet I'd be worried to get in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't know why I did it. I just thought, oh wow, I feel so cleansed because it feels really nice on the skin. I thought I'll put my head in, and then for days afterwards, just going trying to clear it. But amazing. Hey, all right, nice to see you. And
you too.
Thanks again for an awesome weekend last weekend. And we'll speak soon.
Okay, sounds good.